what do you think about the Rhode Island local music scene?
What do I think about the Rhode Island music scene?
Yeah.
I think it's awful, to be honest with you.
Awful or awesome?
Awful.
As of right now, it's going downhill.
To be honest, I feel like it fucking sucks, man.
I feel like it's kind of limited. It's very much focused on grindcore, screamo, and it doesn't really give other influences or styles in music a chance.
Seriously? Rhode Island scene? Rhode Island scene. It's fucking dying every single day.
Not awful, it's just whatever. I mean, when I first started going to shows, it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
There's never been a good band that's come out of Rhode Island.
Well, I've been going to shows for about 7 years now, and a lot has changed. The way it is, it's kind of random at times because we have all these different musicians coming together all at once, but, you know, it doesn't make a difference. It's like...
Just the kids, too. I mean, just
attitude-wise, things have gone really downhill. The quality of the bands and even the quantity of the bands that are coming out at this time are just not what it used to be. It's like,
Basically, it's evolved a lot. Like, when I started our shows, on average in New Bedford, we're getting like 20 to 30 kids. Now we average about 50 to 75 on Sunday mornings. We just did a show at Club Hell on a weekday. It was actually 420. We were competing against All-American Rejects. We had 105 people for a local show, which I think is really good.
venues have been shutting down left and right. We have, you know, the living room was shut down. We have almost every VFW shut down.
It's gotten heavier. I feel like when I first started, it was like really hard to get shows, and like I could occasionally get on the living room, but it'd be like a Wednesday or Thursday night. And then it's actually gotten better. Club Hell has just started to kind of bring back the scene. They're giving local bands more of a shot. You know, they'll start you off on like a Wednesday, you know, so you can pay your dues, but then they're offering you like that slot opening up for the bigger bands that you want to be involved with.
The scene now, I mean, it's kind of depleted a little bit since the living room shut down.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's still alive and well. We're all just kind of practicing and waiting for a new place to open up.
Yeah, if the living room was still open, a lot of people had a lot of ties to the living room after it closed. A lot of people felt really hurt that it was closed. They didn't understand why. It's still kind of a mystery to why it closed. But a lot of people supported the living room, and it was just like the place to go. Like, all the younger kids were there, the older people were there. And I think with Club Hell, a lot of the parents don't want them to go there because of bad things they might have heard, which aren't true.
Yeah.
But it has a stigma to it that the living room didn't have. The living room, just in the name alone, has a more comforting sound than Club Hell.
Hell, you know.
So I think, yeah, definitely if the living room was still around, it'd probably be better, but it is what it is. And
every venue I've ever been to, which is an extensive list. Yeah, big words. The living room was my favorite venue ever. Like, it wasn't just the fact that I've been going to shows at the living room pretty much since I've been going to shows. It was also, like, the atmosphere. There was no better place for it. Like, the size of it, you know, you could still have, like, 400 or 500 kids even in there. Even though they weren't supposed to, they'd still do it, but it was still always great. And I really fucking miss the living room.
Oh, it would be way better, dude. It'd be so much better. I think there'd be a lot more bands in our area.
I don't think it would be better. I just think that none of these people actually know where to play right now, because there are plenty of places still.
Yeah.
And if someone took the initiative, they would be able to get decent shows going for really cheap. But right now, no one has found that yet.
Well, I don't know, like the living room, I mean, it's shut down in the first place because of a bill problem, right? They weren't paying their bills. Yeah. I mean, as far as the attendance to the shows, I thought it was pretty good, you know? As far as trying to integrate, like, you know, local bands into the more, like, mainstream bands coming in, I don't feel like they did that great of a job doing it. It was, like, kind of just cherry-picking, like, the top bands, you know, which would be, like, maybe 4 or 5 at the most, and just having them continually, like, open up for these bands, and that didn't really, that's not helping, like, develop a scene. That's just continuing what already exists, and I mean that can only go so far, you know. Whereas Club Hell is actually making an effort to grow something.
Like the you know, Mike D, who is the guy who booked shows, would book the smallest bands, and he'd book the biggest bands, and he loved all of them as long as he, like, if you weren't this little pretentious asshole who was starting a band and thought you were hot shit, like all those really shitty bands that would pretty much walk up to Pete the sound guy or Big Joe or Mike and demand things, they were the most awesome people in the world, and they took care of everybody, and they made sure everything was okay. And just the venue in and of itself, like, people would walk in there and be like, oh, this place sucks. It didn't suck. It was the most comfortable place you could possibly go. Like, the stage was a perfect height, it was the perfect size, everything was mic'd up. If you wanted to play the floor and be more intimate, you could because of the size. It was the most perfect place, and like, just like, it's one of those things where people are gonna grow up talking about the living room and no one's gonna be able to experience it for themselves, and that's what sucks.
Try to find other places to go.
There's nothing around here. You have Club Hell, and you have Lupo's. The only way you're gonna show at Lupo's is if you go somewhere. Club Hell is awful to play shows at. The stage is mad small. The living room was like the best for Rhode Island, and it's gone.
Living room, you could at least get on shows now that that's gone. You can't hop on any shows anymore. You don't get motivated to write unless you play shows. You don't get amped up in the band spirit, and bands usually quit before they ever get to do anything.
And Firehouse 13 does a lot of local, smaller, like, grinded hardcore shows. AS220 is good, except they start their shows too late, but anyone can get a show at AS220.
Have you ever heard of the Drop Zone?
No.
It was across from Cumberland High School, and it was the Cumberland High School it was a great place to play.
That's awesome.
And one day, out of the blue, Bury Your Dead, The Risk Taken, and Black My Heart played a show. Booked the day of, and at the Drop Zone. Those kids never knew what hit them. But it was just really goofy. Like, it made no sense, but it was awesome. And it was the day of. I wish I had gone, but I had some friends who went, and I actually found pictures on Return to the Pit of them.
Jerkies, don't really have much to say about Jerkies.
Yeah, Jerkies.
That's about it that I know of. And Lupo's obviously is for big bands.
Kind of tough again, unless you know people, you know.
Like the Met Cafe, like, I remember going to shows there, and that was a great venue too, maybe not as great, but once that got shut down, we have a whole generation of kids where somebody will be like, oh, I remember this show at the Met, blah, 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 and people will be like, the Met, what's that? That's what the living room is gonna be like.
There's a couple of things like Club Tantric, Firehouse 13, no one's taken advantage of it yet, which is a really nice place to play, got a great PA, and a few VFW halls around there.
The other issue with, you know, everybody shitting out on you, which happens way too much, is, I don't know how it is everywhere else in the country, but around here, actually starting a band and getting people to listen to you seems to be all about who you know, and if you don't know the right people, no one's going to give a shit about your band unless you work as hard as you possibly can, which a lot of people don't really do right off the bat. So it's like you have to know people who, you know, everybody in your band has to know someone to get your name out there, to get people to want you to play shows.